Aras Azadian joins me now. He's the CEO of Avicanna Inc. that just began trading on the TSX senior board under the symbol AVCN. Aras, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Aras, Avicanna exists as a premium sort of company on many levels. You've got 2 Fortune 100 financial and sort of medical partners, industry partners. Your capital structure is remarkable. You started trading yesterday, a very respectable start, and you're trading at $150 million market cap, and you said to me earlier that that makes this a real buy, and I'm curious as to how, in your view, that is how that is possible.
So I think we're a fully developed company, like you were saying. It's fully baked from a full value chain perspective. All of our infrastructure is in place. Our cultivation assets are operating at incredible levels. The research and development work we've done for the last 4 years is completed, and new projects and new versions of products are coming out. Commercially, we're active in many markets. We have many brands. We have a team of 240 today, with many of them being housed in Toronto, where our head office is, with 30-something scientists, clinicians, and for me, it's one of the most complete stories that you can see in the biopharma world, certainly in the cannabis world, and we just don't have that valuation yet that I think the company will deserve. So while it's summer and everyone's on vacation for the IPO, I think it's a great time to be involved in this story.
Sure. So you had participation from Johnson & Johnson and another Fortune 100 company. Tell me about those relationships, how they came to be, and what they mean for you going forward in the future.
Yeah, so J&J is not involved from an equity point of view. We're part of an incubation center they have where we began a lot of our research, sort of where the company was actually incepted in. It's in Mars, the center, the Silicon Valley of biotech of Canada, where we've spent the last 3 years doing R&D, product development, product optimization. We've had access to mentorship from them. We've had access to a lot of lab space, and a lot of that infrastructure made our R&D process quite affordable relative to the amount of intellectual property we've developed. Another company we work with is Grupo Dabon. They're the world's largest organic company. So they're an organic agricultural company, the largest producers of organic palm oil, coffee, banana on the planet. So having them and their industrial scale support on the agro front has been very helpful for the company. Also having the family involved and having them involved commercially in the 40+ countries they're commercially involved has set a very good footprint for us already.
Sure. So what's your background?
Business school, economics, but I've been working as a management consultant in the biotech sphere for the last 10 years. So when I incepted Avicanna 4 years ago with the co-founders, we took the position of a strictly medical company. And at that time, everyone was obviously going towards the rec space, preparing for the rec space, and we wanted to take the harder path, the path that has much more entry barriers, the path that's going to have longevity, but that required a lot more substance, a lot more research, a lot more clinical work, and that's the route we've taken.
So a pure biotech pharma play.
Absolutely. Like we're still involved in consumer products. We'll be involved in supplements where permissible. So to simplify the business models, we do sell the raw materials. We sell the CBD, the THC. We sell them in supplement form, cosmetic form, medical form, phytotherapeutic form, and then pharmaceutical form. And then we have divisions associated to that as well. So we have a cosmetic line, we have a medical line, we have a pharmaceutical line of products.
So you're a cultivator as well, and your cultivation operations are in Colombia?
In Santa Marta, Colombia, the northwest coast. It's tropical, it's gorgeous, but what's unique about it is that it's dry. So it's the dry Caribbean, and the two words usually don't go together, but in this case it does. So some of the Colombia everyone knows is, for us, the most optimal place to cultivate, but that doesn't mean everywhere. In Colombia, there's hundreds of microclimates. They're very different. The temperature is always the same. It's the 12 hours of sunlight you need for flowering. That's great. But when it comes to the actual cultivation during flowering stage, relative humidity really matters. And I think a lot of companies are currently struggling with the relative humidity issues because that causes mold, that leaves aflatoxins within the cannabinoids or the cannabis. So those are some of the other issues that are faced. But in Colombia, where we are in Santa Marta, we have 2 facilities that we own majority stake in, that we operate, Santa Marta Golden Hemp and Sativa Nativa. Both are growing CBD THC. They have registered genetics, commercially registered genetics, which means we can actually sell. And today we have a combined about 400,000 square feet of cultivation. That was phase 1. That was a pilot. We were just trying to optimize, and now we're going to be going into phase 2.
Sure. One of the key value propositions of companies that have been based in Colombia is that Colombia is so much more, infinitely cheaper than Canada, US, or European operations. In terms of the cost of cultivation. Is that actually your experience?
Absolutely. So we've had about 14 harvests. So this is not a theoretical 5-10 cents a gram. It's true. We range in here between 5 to 6 cents a gram. That matters in the long term. Obviously, that creates margins for the company, and I think that long term, that's going to create medicine that's going to be more affordable for us specifically, because today patients are paying. You know, and if you look at an oil tincture in Australia, it might be $300-400. If you're looking at an oil tincture in the UK today, it's £400. You know, and I think we can really bring that cost down in a way that the company will have significant margins, but really we can make patients' products more affordable. Doctors will be then more inclined to prescribe it, doctors will be more inclined to recommend it, and at the same time patients will be more inclined to try it. So we believe in that, but what's really important, one of the major reasons of why we are in Colombia is consistency. Because the climate where we are is so consistent, even if I'm using what we call low-tech greenhouses, where I have zero electricity being used, meaning no fans, no air conditioners, no humidity controls, no lights, because the environment is so consistent, I can have a consistent crop every time. Using the same phenotype, I can have a consistent crop, which means a consistent extract, and in some cases, consistent isolates. So that part's very important, especially for us, where we rely on that quality.
Sure. Your focus on research in the laboratory environment, what has emerged as the most promising, exciting sort of indications for human medical use of cannabinoids?
We focus on 6 therapeutic areas. The predominant 3 are dermatology, pain management, and neurology. And within that space, what we've done so far in the last couple of years is develop our dermocosmetic line, which is very advanced. Currently, it's in clinical trials, so the clinical trials have already commenced. Those trials will be done in September. In parallel with that, we're doing a study on epidermolysis bullosa. It's a horrible skin disease. Sometimes they're referred to as butterfly children. And that trial is actually taking place with Sick Kids Hospital. That's sort of the dermatology position. On the chronic pain or neuropathic pain level, we have some trials that are ongoing as well. A lot of different treatments, usually oral, where dermatology is topical. And another area that we're very focused on is neurology. So our chief medical officer is actually Dr. Hamza Ali. He's the current president of the Epilepsy Society in the Caribbean. He was a board member of the Epilepsy Society in the US. I think he was awarded Ambassador of Epilepsy this year. And he's leading a lot of that neurology program, specifically around epilepsy. So those are the areas that we're very excited about. And when we look at a particular therapeutic area, we look at it from consistent, simplified, but advanced in formulation, cannabinoid formulations. But we also look at them from cannabinoids and other drug combinations. So we've done a lot of that work over the last 2 years, where we're combining cannabinoids with other drugs in what we call synergistic relationships. Simple terms, 1 + 1 = 3. And with that, you can actually patent. And with that, you're providing much better solutions than just cannabinoids on their own or just a pharmaceutical drug on its own.
So if you were to categorize the core value proposition of Avicanna, would it be a portfolio of IP and associated brands, or is it more in methodologies associated with growing a medical standard of a medical ingredient?
It's a hard question to answer. I think the simple answer would be all of the above, because we have due to necessity, we have to develop everything ourselves. Due to the lack of control and consistency and quality, really, we develop our own methodologies from extraction, isolation, to analytical testing, to bioanalytical testing. And then we realized, no, we have to actually grow. So then we went and we developed all of the processes for cultivation and all of that as well. So within that system, we created a value chain that feeds into a final product, and that may be a pharmaceutical product or a cosmetic product. However, each business unit on its own, or each vertical on its own, can be a business unit. Because we cultivate in Colombia and our cost is so low and we're doing it so efficiently, I don't necessarily need to just supply my own medical, pharma, or cosmetic products. I can supply other world-class companies. And those type of companies that are going to be entering the space are going to look at quality and are going to look at a reputation, and this is where Avicanna, as a premium company, I think is going to really stand up.
Sure. So you must be in a position then to produce isolates, extracts, etc., to an EU GMP standard?
Absolutely. So there's 3 things that goes into being EU GMP certified. First is the agricultural part. You need to be good agriculture and collection practices, GAP. We've done 2 of those audits. We expect to have that actually in September. Second part is GMP extraction, and this is a process we're going through now, and we're going to have a European Union inspection. The third piece is GMP manufacturing, which we already have. So we have an exclusive partnership with a company called Altea. It's a manufacturing plant. They produce today for Pfizer, Novartis, Merck, GSK, and Avicanna is their only exclusive cannabinoid partner. So we do all of our manufacturing there. So while the R&D was really done at J Labs and University of Toronto, we've already transferred all that intellectual property into Altea, which was not an easy process. It took us 6 months. We've produced all of those products already in pilot scale. We've produced all of those products at a scale that could now be industrial. And now we can simply order large amounts of units. As an example, we can order 3 million tablets a day. So at a scale that has not really been available yet to the global marketplace. And because we're cultivating ourselves and we have that industrial scale of API, we can actually feed into that at a global level.
Interesting. The majority of companies coming in here today in the cannabis space are telling me about this type of an approach to the medical market that's going to be EU GMP certified, that they're going to do at some point in the future.
Right.
To hear from you, who have actually been doing it for 3 years as a matter of business, is very differentiating for me and very refreshing.
Thank you.
But so tell me about where you're going to be next, because that's telling me where everybody else is going to be telling me they want to be.
Right.
So where do you see the industry going?
I think the industry is evolving, and I think the corrections we've saw in the last couple of weeks is just growing pains. And I think the industry, I always say, is going to start separating. You know, you're going to have your recreational companies, and I think they're going to do quite well in Canada, even locally, cultivating, flower for consumption purposes. And you're going to have your medical companies. And those companies, you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm medical. You know, it has to be part of the DNA of the company. You have to have the right researchers and right collaborators in place. You need to have the right intellectual property in place. And the people that are going to be medical companies are going to be very, very different than the recreational ones. And I think you're going to see a separation between the two. And in both sides of the industry, however, you're going to see an enhancement of quality and consistency.
Right.
But certainly on the medical side, the requirements, the demand for quality, data, consistency, all the required testing, the manufacturing under GMP is going to come in. And the people that are producing products in garages around the United States, et cetera, are going to should be alarmed, because society is advanced. They're going to want advanced products. They're going to want to have products that have a sustainable source. And another angle that is very important is our cultivation is sustainable. So we're environmentally sustainable. We don't use electricity in our flowering rooms. You know, we are organic certified. We're going to have our organic certification by the end of August. So it's a different process, and I think the industry is evolving, and I would like to think that we're one of those companies that's actually spearheading the evolution of the industry.
Sure. Aras, that's a fantastic intro to the company. We'll have you back soon. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks.